everybody, welcome back to The Hobby Musician. Today I'm going to show you how you can make your very own custom molded in-ear monitors completely from scratch at a very affordable price point. Now before we get started, I've got two notes about this episode. Number one is I've planned out and structured this video with the assumption that somebody out there might be watching this and they might be starting from absolute scratch. They don't know what monitors to get, they don't know how to do this process. So I have made this video as if I'm that person from scratch. Everything is still in the packaging, just like as if I went out and bought it myself. The second note is, everything you see in here, all of these products and companies, nobody is sponsoring this video. I went out and spent my own money to buy all these things. But if you're watching this and you decide you want to try this yourself, I've gone ahead and included some Amazon affiliate links down below this video that you can click in, and after you watch the process, you can get the exact products you see us using here and try it yourself. All right, without further ado, how do we do this? Well, there are two main components that you're going to need to have if you want to make your own custom molded monitors. The first component are monitors themselves. Now, you could hear earbuds, in-ears, whatever you want to call them. You're going to need the product that's going to be making the sound into your ear. Now, keeping with the mission of our channel here, we have done our homework and we're all about finding products that are high quality but may not carry the high price tag, and we've got just the ticket today. These are KZ brands, so already that's not one of the major name brands. But this particular brand of monitors offers a whole range. They offer anything from single drivers all the way up to some crazy 16, 24 driver earbuds. And all that means is inside the actual piece, how many tiny little speakers are you going to find? That's what the drivers really are. Now, I have splurged and gone up one step from the absolute bottom. These are dual drivers. So inside each earpiece, there are two separated little speakers that are handling the sound that comes in. When that signal enters the earpiece, it kind of splits it, so the highs go to one driver, the lows go to the other one, and it makes it a little easier for the mechanics of it to reproduce that sound. It comes back out, blends together in your ear, and it just produces a higher quality sound. Now, the dual drivers that I got, I said I splurged. As of the filming of this video, these are still less than $25. So it's a really, really affordable entry point to this world of custom molding and in-ear monitors. Now, the other star of the show, the other thing that's going to make this process work, is a moldable earplug kit. Now this particular brand, this is a Radian's brand, and they're specifically produced for people who want to make full out ear plugs. It's essentially a two-part putty mixture that once you start mixing them together, it starts a chemical reaction to stiffen them up. But you've got about 10 minutes of working time. So after you start mixing them together, you push it into your ear and it forms all the way around to your specific ear cavity, all the grooves and nooks and crannies, and it pushes in there, and then after 10 minutes, it firms up and hardens. So coming in and coming out, you now have a perfect representation of your ear. And when you combine the two together, when you press in the putty, and then in a second I'll show you, you take the earbud and press that in on top of it. On the one side, on the inside, it's molded to your ear. And on the outside, it's molded to the monitor, which makes a perfect seal, seals out all the outside noise and seals in all of the signals coming from your monitors. All right, well, there's one last thing that I want to show you to how you can prep your monitors before we get in there and actually do this process. So I'm going to get these unboxed. I'll be back in a second and we'll talk you through that. All right, we've got everything unboxed and ready to go. You can see here they've got the cables that attach here nicely bagged up for us. They've even got the bag of extra silicone tips. Usually companies will put that in there. They've got big ones, medium, small, depending on the size of your ear canal. You can mix and match and see what works best for you. But it's those silicone tips that I want to specifically talk about. The last tip that we need to do before we go in and actually start using the putty is we actually have to remove those tips. One of the things that we're doing is essentially this process replaces that tip. They're designed to go into your ear canal and squish in there and try to block out outside sound and keep the inside sound in, but that's what we're doing. We're just going to do a better job with these putty kits. Now, this is the last kind of, precaution or tip for you out there, is that you'll notice inside, depending on the model, if you're using this exact one or if you have your own monitors, these ports where those tips go on, there are going to be holes in there. Now, this particular one has sort of a grate with a lot of little holes. Some of them, it's just a single tube that comes out. But sometimes people get a little nervous. We are going to be using putty, and then we're going to be pressing these into the putty. People can be afraid of getting some of that material inside and getting stuck in the monitor. Now, if you're worried about that, what you can do is you can take a little piece of that kitchen plastic wrap, that film that you put over leftovers. We can cut out a tiny little square of that, put it over the port, and then take some very fine thread, just sewing thread, and tie it around to essentially create a little barrier that protects that port when you press it in there. Now, the other approach is the one that I'm going to take. I've personally done this process a number of times with a lot of different monitors that I've tried over the years. And I personally don't put anything over there because the putty itself is very stiff. This is a material that really sticks to itself well, and making it a stiff product. And what ends up happening for me is that when I press this in, it maybe just does a very initial impression, but this putty hardens up, and after 10 minutes, when we pull out the monitors, that putty stays right where it is, and it never gets into the canal in there. Well, with that, the last thing I've got here is a little wash rag. And what we're going to do when we go into the bathroom and get our mirrors set up to do this, I'm going to roll up this wash rag really tight, and I'm actually going to use this to bite down on and keep my mouth open while we have these plugs drying in our ears. Physiologically, what that's going to do for us, when your jaw is open, it actually opens up everything, including your ear canal. And so by slightly widening our ear canal, we're going to put in these molds, and they're going to form to a very slightly wider ear canal, so that when you take this out of your mouth and you're in a normal playing situation, when your mouth then is closed, your ear canal is going to even better seal around these plugs, making the sound quality that much better. All right, we've got everything we need, so we're going to pack up, head to the bathroom, and I'll see you back in a sec to get this process finished. We are all set up here in the bathroom. We got our mirrors, everything set up. So right before we do this process, I want to tell you a couple of the last minute things that I do to make sure that I'm all ready for the molding process. Number one, you can see that I've got my monitors on me, kind of in a situation that I would have if I were getting ready to go play. This is just going to make it so much easier that once I get the putty in there, I can quickly reach down and grab the bud to be able to press it in there. So that's the first thing to do. Now, the other thing is I've got everything else set up. Like we talked about in there, I've got my rolled up washcloth that I can put in my mouth, and I took the putty kits and I already initially separated them. So we said it's a 2-part putty, but you got to remember, they're going to put all of one part and all of the other in separate containers. So you got to make sure you split them in half, because you're making 2 plugs, one for each ear. All right, once I start getting this mixed up, and once I get the washcloth in my mouth, I won't be able to talk anymore. So I'll be able to put tips and directions down in subtitles below. So without further ado, I'm gonna get mixing for about 30 seconds, and then we'll get this first ear plug in. Here we go. Okay, we are all mixed up, so I'm going to get my washcloth in my mouth, and we're going to get this first mold made. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, our 10 minutes is up, and it's always a self-conscious moment when you take that out. Your jaw just gets tired after a while, so I'm always self-conscious of the way I sound after this. Okay, it's been 10 minutes, so now we're able to very gently take these out. And the whole time, if you've never done one of these before, one thing to be aware of is you're going to hear a lot of like popping and like bubbles that sound like bubbles are kind of popping and almost feeling like a puff of a bubble. And that's normal. That is the chemical reaction of the two parts of the epoxy as they work together. They're completing their reaction, so you cannot hear it because it's shoved up into your ear. But this is why you're always just very careful and very gently taking them out. Now for right now, I'm going to let this hang here. I'm going to get the other one out. So that's totally normal, and it's a weird feeling. It certainly is a weird feeling, but after you get used to it for a minute or two, you'll be fine. But then I'm always gentle, so I'm being very gentle, very carefully pulling these out. And then what you do now, yes, they're set, but I highly recommend, we're not going to do anything else. We're not going to come back and shape the holes for the sound to come out until 24 hours. But what I am going to do is I'm going to very gently pull out the earbuds themselves. So you can see now, so the earbud, and I'm going to just double check it. Yeah, and like we had said before, making sure that none of the material kind of gets down into those ports. But by pulling it out, the impression is already here. So it's now firm enough that it can kind of stay on its own, and we're going to let that set for 24 hours. And again, I'm going to do it the same thing on this side, just gently, very carefully kind of wiggle it until it pops out like that. And then we're going to let these sit here overnight, like we said, and we're going to come back in the morning and go back in. We're going to get our Dremel tool, and we're going to drill in those little holes to make sure that everything is there and ready for us to finish this off. So, okay, I'll let these set, and we'll see you back in 24 hours. Okay, well, we are here, and it is the next day. So these earplugs have had a chance. They've sat overnight, so kind of they've achieved their maximum stiffness. And you can see I've got the camera angle different because I want to show you a nice close-up of this last step. So far, we've said before that these earplug kits are designed to make full plugs. They're designed to not let anything through. And if you're looking at them and you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, I see the impression from the earbud on this side, and I see the area or the little nib that points to my ear canal, but they're not connected. And you're right. The last step of this process is, now that we've got the perfect mold to your specific ear canal, we need to drill or cut a little channel into the nib that will connect the output or the sound port from the earbud itself, and allow that to have a clear, unobstructed channel that goes down to your ear canal. So for that, there's a lot of ways you can do this. If you have a really nice sharp razor blade with a nice sharp tip, something like that, you can go in and cut. Even though we keep saying this is a stiff material, it is stiff, but it's still rubber. So it can be cut, it can be shaped. So if you have a really sharp kind of new razor blade, that can work. Sometimes, or if you have like ice picks, like if you have the tool, a really sharp ice pick, you can kind of start to poke and cut the holes that you need in there. Or if you have one of these kind of rotary Dremel style tools with the various bits, they have lots of like grinding and cutting bits. That can do it as well. It's a mechanized way. It's a very simple and fast method, and that's what I'm going to use today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of go into this. This is pretty loud, so I'll kind of time lapse this, and then I'll show you how I go through and cut in the holes, and then that'll finish up this project for us. So, all right, stay tuned. everybody, you can see we are finally done. After a little bit, a few minutes of kind of, routing out and drilling down into there, you can see that coming into those nibs, these nibs that point right into your ear canal, we now have drilled out or cut out a channel that directly connects to the inside, right where the sound ports push down in. And as you're going, you could see I was kind of looking at this side, and then I would go and look at this side, and you can see from all the dust and debris here, every once in a while you kind of have to almost blow out the dust. But you can see down in the channel, and now that there's, when you're looking at it here, there's daylight, that means that there's also quote unquote sound light. That means that the sound is not going to be blocked. So when this gets pushed back in there, now there is going to be a direct route for the sound to be coming out of your monitor and travel down into your ear canal. So the last part of this, just one little pro tip for you. If you're going to try this yourself, let me get the right one in here. If you're going to try this yourself, you're going to notice that when you're just holding these up to your ear, you're kind of thinking to yourself, wait a minute, if I just shake it a little bit, the earbud might fall out, and you'd be right. So the last little pro tip for this is, if you want to fix these in here and get them so that they're adhered and they don't really come out and you don't have to worry about it, I have had really good luck with products like this. Again, they're not sponsors, but Glue Dots are these tiny little adhesive blobs that you can peel off, and you stick one right here in the flat spot. You stick a glue dot in here, and then you press in your earbud and press and hold it for about 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and that will really go a long way in sticking. It sticks the flat part of the earbud to the flat part of the silicone mold. Then you've got this permanent unit it's already sticking there. Permanent unit that will go in your ears, and you never have to worry about it again. So that is it. We are done with the project. So I'm going to get the camera, change it around, and we'll finish out this episode. Well, there it is, folks. From start to finish, we have just made our very own set of custom molded in-ear monitors from scratch. I hope you got something out of this episode, and thank you so much for watching. And as always, until next time, play on, my friends. Play on.